Joining me now is Fox News senior judicial analyst Judge Anna Napolitano.
Good morning.
I want to start with the Justice Department investigation into this. And why is this significant, and how is this going to proceed?
Well, the reason the Justice Department is investigating is to see if this was part of a group effort to stifle the free speech of the people there that were protesting against the white nationalists. I mean, stated differently, is this one person on his own driving a car to disrupt a demonstration with which he disagrees, or is this part of some organized effort to silence speech that the people who want to silence it don't like? That's what the Justice Department has to find out. There are political factors here as well. You know, you have an attorney general who's been beat up in the press by the president for not being aggressive enough. You have a president being beaten up in the press for not using language that some thought he should have used. And so this is the reaction to it. In terms of the crime itself, it is certainly life in prison if convicted. It is probably not the death penalty because it doesn't qualify as first-degree murder, but it is a form of manslaughter. It's either vehicular manslaughter at the least, or criminally negligent manslaughter, or second-degree murder because he intended to do the act which caused the death.
This is a very simple question, or a basic question, but
you never know, McD.
No, but would this man be prosecuted for the crime locally in the state for manslaughter, and then also potentially be prosecuted at the federal level? Would you have two separate prosecutions?
It's not a simple question. It's a profound question, and the answer is yes. However, it would probably be a waste of time for the feds to prosecute him if he will already have been convicted and sentenced to life in prison by the Virginia authorities. But, you know, we live in very difficult times. You heard General McMaster, and I have to disagree with him. There is a federal definition of terrorism, and it's very, Andrew knows this, it's very precise. 2 or more acts of violence intended to affect the policy of the government. That is this probably does not fit within that definition from what we now know. This is another reason for the investigation. When he left Ohio, was he planning to kill somebody? When he was in Ohio, was he planning and plotting with others to do this? How big a group was involved that resulted in the death of this young woman? Or is this just one crazy Nazi-attracted nut doing this on his own? The Justice Department has to get the answers to that.
And I want to point out the man's name, James Alex Fields Jr., is the 20-year-old Ohio resident that we're talking about. But in terms of people who were at these rallies, there were the photographs of the people, the white supremacists who were marching on the lawn at the University of Virginia on Friday night, even before this young woman was murdered. And their photos were everywhere. They were all over the internet, and people are trying to, on Twitter and elsewhere, trying to pinpoint who these individuals are and get them fired. And I just wonder, legally, is hate speech protected, but does it does the Constitution prevent you from losing your job if your boss doesn't like what you're doing off the job?
Very good questions. Generally, hate speech is protected. And as repellent as this idea is, the idea of hatred of somebody because of their race, the police have an obligation to protect the speaker. And the government will not take sides and protect only the speech it likes and only the speech it welcomes. It has to protect even the speech it hates. It's very clear from recent Supreme Court opinions that that's the prevailing interpretation of the First Amendment. But that is a protection against action by the government, being prosecuted. So can the guy who organized this demonstration be prosecuted for the murder? The argument being his words caused such an incendiary atmosphere of hate, the murder was the natural and probable consequence? The answer is no. His speech, no matter how hateful, is protected. But can he lose his job? Well, that depends on the state that he's in. In New York, in New Jersey, and California, we have statutes that prohibit affecting an employment relationship because of political views expressed outside the workplace. I don't know if Virginia, your home state, has that kind of statute.
According to the reports, a lot of these individuals, there were a handful who were featured in some of the most seen photos from the rally on Friday night. But it seems as if they came from all over the country. They came from as far away as California, if not further. So they were from states far and wide to come to this white supremacist neo-Nazi rally.
So the regulation of employment relationships, the relationship between the employer and the employee is generally regulated by the states, and it would depend upon in what state that person works.
That's incredible.